This is one of those things that we don't really talk about it, actually. Let's just admit we don't talk about it because it is something that just has to happen within the circle. And it's very rare that you discuss magic or that we actually talk about magic. But I think that there are certain aspects that we can actually talk about our own experience in it. We talked a little bit about it when we talk about my experience in the Iberian experience here in Portugal and how I learned things from the old days, from not Wicca, of course, we talked about this. It was witchcraft, it was traditional witchcraft, mostly operative magic. That's what it was. And we gave an example in the last episode that we talked about our meeting with the sacred tree. But it is those things that makes the magic truly enjoyable. It's the spontaneity, it's the truthness in it, it's the finding that moment that will make you smile and make your solar plexus go like sinking and it's like, ooh, and that is the joy that magic brings. I know you're going to talk about magic because I know you love it as much as I do. And we did have a very good experience when you visit with magic as well, spontaneous and otherwise. What do you think? How do you find magic?
Well, I have thought about this all week. We've known we were going to talk about magic, and as the philosopher, I always first want to go to the top of the tree and define the terms. Walter Ernest Butler said, "Before you start any esoteric or occult discussion, gentlemen, comma, define your terms." And I love that statement because so many people start using words like magic or witchcraft without really having established what those words mean. And then you're always off center with the conversation because you may not be talking about the same thing that you're talking about with other people. So I want to start by saying that in the modern world since the 1900s, magic has been defined as either changing consciousness of the human in theurgy to receive the divine energy to build a better vehicle to connect with the bigger powers or other powers, theurgy magic. And that's a form of magic where it can be done in church, it can be done in any occult practice, Buddhism, Hinduism, of developing the self and therefore changing consciousness, which probably changes circumstances around us. Or other definitions are that we're just affecting the material world around us through special techniques and we can cause change in accordance with will. So these ideas of magic are really old. Shamanistic cave paintings, some of the oldest writings ever are basic spell work. Love, healing, weather, protection, guard against our enemies. The basic human needs are embedded in magic in from our earliest histories. And so witchcraft magic, and I definitely define it both ways. Operative witchcraft is just the practices of doing energy work that change the world around you, yourself, your community, etc. And then there's the religious side too, which is the connection to the gods or the godhead or the divine energy, which is a different energy working. But then you're connected with the powers, and it's easier, I think, and better to go into the common magic because you've got this stream of energy through your body and through your mind that is more holy, if we can use that word, right? More altruistic. And so it's a really big topic, and we know our ways. We're trained in the Alexandrian and Gardnerian traditions according to the Book of Shadows, very specific techniques, and we practice these and use these in combination or individually together as a group. We could do this forever and never be bored. There's so many great things embedded in these ways. And then other systems have other ways, and I think it's not wrong to look at. We talked about this yesterday just chatting, was it the angelics? Do we necessarily are trained to use angel beings? No. But do other systems next door to us talk to and use the angels? Yes. So if we have some specific training, it's okay that we might use them in a controlled situation, still in our purview as a coven. you know? And we've talked about that expanding practice and experimentation. So it's a huge topic. I love magic. I've been doing it since I was a little tiny kid. I know you have too. And it's been the biggest experiment with my own mind and the world around me.
One of the things that I was taught is eh, eh, with the enthusiasm of experimentation and to really kind of try to touch these other things. They are not foreign, but distant from the current that we are working. It is very important to remember that principle, which is never mix your drinks. This was asked to me by many people several times. This was a question that came in. How do I know what is not to mix? How do I know what is to mix, really? And that would not go against whatever it is that we are doing or the currents that we are working in right now. It makes you think about, okay, so is magic is not all the same. The methods are not all the same. We do have a resonance. We do have a current that we work within, and we should. And if we are working that way, this is why I'm a little worried sometimes that people do play too many drums at the same time because they are either in the OTO or they are in the OTO and the Golden Dawn, and then they're also in Wicca, and on Thursdays they're in the Masonic Lounge, and on Saturday they're in the Golden Dawn, and then on Sunday they're in the Coven. I was always conscious about this, that things do not mix well together. Even though they are magic and they are part of this language and systems of techniques that we know from the 20th century and even more recent stuff, we need to understand that this has implications on the vibrational field of people. And when they come to the coven, it's difficult unless you're like an amazing practitioner that you can just disconnect automatically. It is a little bit difficult for you to not bring that which you were working in, or even both things that you were working in, with you to the circle. People are going to say horrible things about this because they're going to say, well, I always worked 5 things. And I'm like, okay, fine. Well, wonderful. I applaud you. I cannot. I cannot. I am a person of one. I wanted to be a specialist in one. I don't want to be drumming the whole set. I think that I can learn things from these general things from the magical techniques, etc. That touches all of these things, but I don't need to be involved in the rituals or the order or the Masonic lodge or whatever it is that people do. Because I feel that there is a vibrational consequence to this that will permeate the circle and that will bring that to the circle. And, people bring their own auric field to the circle. Very difficult to disconnect from that which you were working for 3 hours the other day and not bringing it in with you when you're coming. And of course, that will have an impact also in the work. And sometimes that's a good thing. And I'm not saying that some of the things that you do are not really actually going to enhance whatever you're doing. But when we begin to bring things into the circle that are not of the craft, and they shouldn't be in there, and people begin to mix stuff from other sources under the guise of not only coven autonomy, but also coven development or experimentation. That's the wonderful excuse that they give. It's experimental. We're experimenting. Uh, then it becomes a soup, that it's nothing in particular. And then you begin to see changes in people, changes in what you do, people leaving, things like that, and you don't understand why. And they can't leave the group by legitimate causes, like, oh, they had received the offer of a job somewhere else, and they have to leave the town or whatever. But that is a consequence of what happened because of that, which was tainted, that shouldn't have been.
A disharmony,
That's right.
a brain chemistry disharmony occurs. Dion Fortune says magic is the art of changing consciousness at will. Whereas Crowley says the science and art of causing change in the world around you in conforming with your will. But I like Dion Fortune. I think she's advanced in a bit, and I totally agree. If someone asked me 15 years ago, Ellie, what's your main hub in the occult world? What's your main hub? And I said witchcraft. It's my oldest thing. It's the thing I've done consistently. Have I learned other things? Absolutely. And I still say I'm of the Western esoteric tradition. And I think witchcraft is firmly embedded in that. And it does take from and borrow from Kabbalah and Hermeticism and astronomy and astrology and alchemy and these things because they're all embedded in sort of similar brain patterns. But when you cross the oceans and you're working in different age timelines and culture in other god forms, and there are a lot of god forms, and they're from different cultures and different times, then your brain has to segment off, compartmentalize, and process these different vibrational forces in your energy field. So you're right. Let's say you're doing voodoo, the African religion of voodoo, all day on Tuesday according to its tenets, properly and correctly, and then the next day you come to your witchcraft coven, are you going to really be free from the voodoo practice? No, it drags with you because it embeds in your consciousness as part of your energy field. So I really agree for health reasons and sanity reasons that maybe we just work within a system that is cohesive to itself. I think that's very healthy. I also like education. So you and I both want to know about other things. So if somebody comes to us, we can say, hey, you might want to go look over here. That might be better suited to your karma or your DNA, right? But I'm looking at our ideas too in our tradition, Alexandrian tradition. These are very much magics of the body and of the body of the couple. This is what we talked about last time too, is polarity. What is our primary so I wanna go back to theurgy and thaumaturgy. Maxine says, "Through the worship comes the magic," meaning first we do the theurgy. We build the energy and we create the space in our being to invite the gods in and have connection with the divine. That's our number one that's actually our ritual every single time. We don't ever not do that part. The ritual and invited
Essential,
right.
essential. That's essential. Yes, that's the first thing we do. And that connection is very important because as you said, theurgy is the beginning. You have to have that connection. You have to connect within whatever perspective or level you think or you understand that you are connecting to the divine, you have to do that first. And then after that, and you're gonna say,
After that can come the thaumaturgy, which might be the more practical application of that energy, whether we're finding a lost cat or healing a child or mending a marriage or doing a healing on someone or helping someone buy a house or get the job they want. These are all the practical thaumaturgy, but and a lot of people do focus on that level of magic, but they don't have very much power behind it because they don't do theurgy, I think, in the beginning. And that's a lot of offering, a lot of devotion and offering in the last 6 weeks, we've had 3 greats in the Western esoteric world pass away. Gordon White of Rune Soup, who was a chaos magician, a witchcraft, a shaman practitioner from Australia, very well known online, Gordon White. He passed suddenly in Peru, and he was only late 30s. I think he was important. Carlo Ginzburg died yesterday, the most amazing Italian scholar, and he was called a microhistorian. He studied and wrote particularly two strong books, The Night Battles in 1966 and Ecstasies, The Witch's Sabbath in 1967. And those were studies of Italian folk traditions that really were embedded around witchcraft. And he was talking about things from the 1800s. And I think he really established academically that witchcraft was done prior to Gerald Gardner, coven witchcraft, group witchcraft, or we agree on it. And then the Buddhist scholar Robert Thurman died this week too. He's Uma Thurman's father. He taught at Columbia. He has a PhD from Harvard in Buddhism. He was the first American to go study under the Dalai Lama and become a monk under the Dalai Lama, and then given the grant to bring it back and teach Tibetan Buddhism in the US. And he was a pillar, I think, for philosophers. And they all died in the last few weeks. And I just wanted to say their magic will be remembered.
That's very beautiful.
And to remind people to study these thinkers, we should all know who Carlo Ginzburg is if we're witches. We should probably know who Gordon White and Robert Thurman are. And if we don't, we can read about them because it's going to help our brains get bigger and better. So back to the body, Kerrigan, tell us, in Alexandrian witchcraft, we are doing very specific things. Theurgy, calling down the gods and connecting with them holistically, right? In our body, in our mind, in our soul. Then we are using physical technique, a lot of physical and mental technique, right?
It is about symbolism. It is about awakening the subconscious mind. It really is working within yourself to have that connection with the divine and then apply that to the techniques that we use. And this is a system. You have to understand that this is a system. It's a magical religious system that uses both of those things to achieve what we can call magic, or the change in reality, or the change in consciousness. This is all about doing it with both polarities working at the same time, because we understand that those are the two creative principles of the universe, and they will have to come together so that change can happen. And of course, this is one of the levels. You can do magic by yourself. You don't need anybody else. And that doesn't mean that one is better than the other, but there are different levels, different approaches to change of consciousness, of reality. And these things are non-negotiable in the system. So there are things that are non-negotiable in the system for it to actually happen, for it to actually work. There are many ways to do these things. There's many ways of practicing magic. There's sex magic. There's a lot of techniques that you can work with. Different cultures have different approaches to this. My approach was always very spontaneous. For me, if I stumble with something in the middle of the road and then suddenly I stop and then something happens and then I have to do something and then I'll do it, that to me is how magic works, really. Because for me, the secret is necessity. Magic cannot work without necessity. One of the biggest lessons that I've learned from Maxine directly was, is it necessary? That's the question. Is it necessary? If it isn't necessary, why even bother? Because you won't have that impulse of doing the job, of actually have the need for it to be accomplished. If you don't have that impetus, it will be sterile. It won't actually work. So when people fail in magic, they fail to believe in it and believe the very purpose of what it actually is serving, either be a change in consciousness, a change in reality, whatever that is. And that's where it goes flat, because people don't have an intention. Thousands of books have been written down about this in the 80s, in the 90s. But intention, intention. You have to visualize. You have to believe in it. You have to believe in it. And yes, that's true. But for you to believe in it, you need to need it. If you don't need it, then it won't work. That's just wishful thinking, and you won't accomplish anything. So for me, when I believe, and I believe with all of my being it's because I have a need for that to actualize, to manifest. And if I do that with all my being, then he will. This is how magic works.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Necessity is the mother of invention. I really love the Passion. I have that joke that, I tell, that's my portrayal of God is the Jewish grandmother from New Jersey with a big cigarette hanging out of her lip and red lipstick and the martini, and she goes, "Oh my god, they're whining down there again. Oh, they want something. They want longer hair. They want bigger tits. Oh my god." And she just doesn't care. She's nonplussed, and she's like, "I'm working on it. You're number 970, lady. I'm trying to get down there and work on your cosmetologist for you, okay?" And then all of a sudden, like, a red light goes off, and there's, like, a hurricane or a tornado, or there's a lost child, or there's a problem, and this necessity really comes in, emotionally, impactfully, and everyone agrees to work for that. It's like everyone would know, "Let's do that. Let's do that. That's important. That's safe. That's helpful." I think there's a lot of frivolity, and the gods are real tired of it, and they don't pay attention to us too much anymore because we cry wolf all the time in magic. I just like the raw power. I like the raw power of it, and just exactly like you said, it comes in your body, and this is true for Alexandrian. It comes in your body, and in fact, I've done so much Alexandrian magic with people today. It comes in your body and you all feel the electricity and you know you're in tune with each other and you understand the cause and you're linked up and your energy fields are linked up. And then there's that electricity that's undeniable. That's when there's necessity. Otherwise, it's flat and it's not so strong feeling. It's kind of like we go through the motions, but we don't feel it.
When does magic go wrong?
When people have the different intentions, well, for one, if people in a group don't have the same intentions or energy level, it goes wrong. If you are undecided in your own mind about your singular magic, it probably goes wrong.
If you doubt,
If you doubt.
if there's mistakes and things that we do, and sometimes this happens, I think that it's Maxine describes this in Firechild, that there was a lot of mistakes that initiates did and made in a ritual, and she went through 4 hours. She stopped it and she went through 4 hours of cleaning what they were doing, cleaning spiritually speaking. And so there's a lot of mistakes that we do that we don't know. That we don't know. We're very ingenue when it comes to magic, and of course, we then learn that some things we shouldn't be doing. You shouldn't be addressing this way, or you shouldn't be approaching this way. People have a lot of good intentions, but magic is an intelligent art. It's not for dummies
No,
because
no.
dummies get really really hurt on this because, and this is why people sometimes think about, oh my god, my whole life it's upside down. It's like the whole thing is like I don't have a job, I don't have a house, I don't have anything. And why let's talk about this because this is very important. Some people, and of course there's different things here that I want to talk about. One of them is people within covens that take advantage of magic. There's a lot of this, and we need to kind of call it out. And then the other one is people get psychologically unbalanced because they are making mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake, and it becomes a delusion in their lives. So they become delusional. This is something that happens over and over and over again. We can see the mad magician. So the mad magician, the one that actually accomplishes, he summons all of the demons in the Key of Solomon, and then he goes into the whole Abramelin system, and then he gets into the very last day of that system, and then he becomes mad. Because only the ones that are strong in their mind can attain what Abramelin had done. Very few reach that level. The last day of that system is the most important and biggest test. They think, oh, it's the whole system. No, 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 it's the endurance. No, it's the last day. And if you either pass it sane without being insane, or you
Right.
become insane. These are old magic, old systems. So it's like it's a system, but it's a system of endurance so that you can see how long can you go
Yeah.
doing this. And if you're strong enough, then you're okay. If you're not strong enough. And this is why in the Alexandrian tradition, I was taught that people need to have a vocation to come to this. Because if they don't have the vocation, they don't have the endurance to overcome all of the things that come towards them. And only somebody with vocation can. So if you don't have vocation and if you don't have that, very difficult.
I wanna go back to the 2 points you're taking in, with the, use of some to the group. This does not only occur in witchcraft, it can occur in any ritual, lodge, or magical group where some of the members recognize, hey, I can siphon off. It's called psychic vampirism. We learned that term in the 80s, and it's still in strong effect today. And there are people out there everywhere in every tradition that can't wait to get some sweet, innocent, wonderful, seeking people to work magic with them so that they can suck off that power and use it for something unsaid to the group. And I've certainly witnessed that, and I am horribly offended by it. Everyone should have free will and autonomy to choose or not choose the magic they're doing. I really can't stand it when someone is gonna steal power from someone else without telling them what they're doing, number 1. That was one point you made, and it happens a lot, and I would like to remind our listeners to turn on their own antenna. If you are drained, ill, psychologically unwell, sick to your stomach, dizzy, when you get done with people or practices, you need to think about it. You need to have some electrolyte liquid, some protein, sit down, breathe, and think, was this good for me? Was this right? Your own guides will tell you if it's wrong or right. And you got to connect with them so you can get your bearings. You've got to find your way to get your bearings. And that does go back to cross practice, cross training in different traditions with very different energy forms. You're going to become unbalanced. You and I would say, you said to me today, you're not Mother Teresa. You have to stay balanced with your own mental health and your own needs and your own balance. You can't save the world and you can't fix everything. You've got to take care of yourself equally. Like we say, the hearth fire, your profession, your home, your cleanliness, your wellness, your relationships with friends and family. This all needs to look good to everyone around you. Non-alcoholism, non-drug addiction, non craziness, that you pay your bills, that you're well, that you're on time, that you're balanced and you're peaceful and well-mannered. These are all signs of a person who has a good, safe, solid personhood and life. When you notice these are off balance and skewed in a person or yourself, it's time to really get back to the middle pillar.
Spiritual hygiene. So, in every sense, we are very conscious of the space, of the self, ourselves, and of the other, and also of what actually happens and yields out of this interaction. We are very conscious of how things are produced, how things are emanated, how things are generated, and we will practice what we call magical or spiritual hygiene. We do not leave, for instance, any power anywhere. The power has to be directed totally. There's no power. Most of the time, people do not have this consciousness. And of course, they don't know the techniques that are used to do this, the clean, or to take all of the things that have to be taken and directed. Because then what happens is that the remaining of these tidbits of power, of energy lingering there in this space, they will have consequences. They will develop. They will have sometimes develop in their own, meaning they will become something. So I think that we have a very good sense of magical and spiritual hygiene in the Alexandrian tradition, don't you think? And I think that it's essential for the cleanliness of the space, how the space is prepared, how the space is left, how in the beginning, in the end, how to do things. And we're not talking about purification only. We're not talking about preparation of space, magical space. We're not talking about only cleanliness, like physical cleanliness. We're talking about a very structured way of making sure that nothing is left in the end, that everything is clean and really directed. So I think that this is one of the strongest things I've learned in the Alexandrian tradition that makes the whole difference
People might say that we're overly structured and we have very definitive patterns and order of things and behavior model. Well, I believe that these physical patterns that we exhibit, the way we walk in quietly and we are conscious and observing and connecting all the dots and going immediately to the work, which is the cleaning, the organizing. We're not moving into the mundane. We are bringing consciousness into the magical realm, the devotional realm, from the moment we step over the threshold into the space where we're all meeting, outside the temple, inside the temple, whatever that is. So the pattern of the body and the thinking is going to create the brainwave patterns. And that's where magic happens. I really do think that's the seed of it. The brainwave expressions are going to go out of the skull into the aura and then out into the collective, and they are going to affect the whole, our brainwave patterns. So in Alexandrian craft, with all this structure, it's not for the reasons of structure and rules. For that reason, it's because they train us to get in alignment with these energy patterns in the brain from the before we start the ritual, way before we start the ritual work. This may be even more important than when we step into the circle. That kind of is overcome with spirit, but before we're setting the brain up.
The first thing that I was taught was Alexandrians prepare. And I had to say this to uh, Gardner friends that they really didn't believe when, well, what do you mean you prepare? We do prepare. Well, but we do prepare as well. I said, yes, you do. I'm sure you do. But we prepare. And I had to say the thing over and over again. And then when we talk about it and they understood, oh, I see what you mean. I see what you mean. So one of the things that I really feel that it's very important is preparation. And we do are trained in preparation. You just talked about a couple of things. We are prepared. And then the other one was one of the other big lessons that I've learned, and this was said to me by a Temple of the Mother priestess, was if you don't learn anything else, know that the most important thing is consciousness. And this was a big lesson. Now, people might think, okay, so what do you mean? But it's very simple, very direct, and I knew exactly what the priestess was telling me and how what was the weight of that. You're talking about consciousness, consciousness of self, consciousness of space, consciousness of the collective, of the coven, consciousness of the other. So it's one of the most important things for us is preparation. We know how to prepare. Consciousness. We know how to be conscious. And then if you do that, you are able to know how to stir and bring up the magic, because that is 50% right there. So it's really very important for people to know this. And of course, we have methods to attain this. For me, the most important thing, and now that I have a couple of years of this, the most important thing is consciousness.
I liken that to the Hermit tarot card where he's above on the mountain, the icy mountain top with no coloring and the gray cloak and the lantern. And he's looking down. And to me, that's ultimate consciousness because he is taking in the entire view. Of course, himself, he's the guru and hermit, so he knows himself, but he's looking at everything in his view 360. I also think it's the magic circle and the magic sphere. You are taking in the 360. And the more you expand your awareness and consciousness, of course, everything about your experience is going to be better, bigger, more unified, more understanding. I remember what I wanted to say that I forgot a minute ago about my symbol that I use for magic and consciousness is the limnoscape. It's that figure 8 that rests above our head. In magic, everything you push out is going to be returned enfolded back on itself, back into your mind and your energy field. That's the lemniscape. And then it is going to be sent back out into the collective, into the universal, and it magnify and then sent back into you. So there is no magic we do that does not affect ourselves. That's why I think magic's really important to not have it be too mundane and to be more trained and more precise about it. And then the lemniscape in consciousness is for everything you perceive outside of yourself as above, so do you perceive it internally as below. And then everything you perceive internally, you can turn that back out into the mass or the big picture and see it represented also. And that those mirrors, internal and external, are consciousness and magic.
It is a game of mirrors.